I'm going to be telling you a bit of a family story. It involves an artwork made by a family member. My mother's older sister Betty married an accountant, Col Cutcher, and they were together for quite a few years. They had two kids, Ian and Jill. At some stage in the 1960s, the marriage broke down and my aunt left to go over to New Zealand to join up with a person that she'd been having a relationship with, and that was Paul Beadle. Back in Newcastle, he was the head of the art school, and he was also responsible for quite a number of artworks around the Newcastle area. Probably best known for the side panels on the Cultural Centre, the sandstone low relief side panels. He made a lot of other work around Australia, some major commissions before he went to New Zealand. What he was over in New Zealand for was to set up and implement the fine arts program at Auckland University. My aunt was also an artist. She was a sculptor, she was a printmaker. Later in life did medallions. In her early years, she also made pottery. That made three of the four girls that my grandparents had. They had a boy as well, Peter, but of the four girls, three of them ended up making pottery at some stage. Betty, my mum, Joyce, and her youngest sister, Phil, all made pottery. Anyway, Betty raced off over to New Zealand to join Paul, much to the dismay of my grandparents. It wasn't the done thing at the time to have a daughter leave her husband and her children and race off to be with somebody else. Ian and Jill were teenagers. Jill went to live with my grandparents and Ian stayed with his father. One of Paul Beadle's streams of his arts practice was making miniature bronzes. And there's a couple up in the Newcastle Region Art Gallery collection. He's quite well known for these, and they quite often had lots of little figures on them, and the figures were sometimes in some way joined. I always loved his miniatures, and in fact it was his miniatures and those of John Winch that influenced me and got me wanting to do and doing miniature bronzes for an exhibition that I had at Von Berto Galleries. In 1973, it was my grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary, their golden wedding anniversary. Paul made a little sculpture to commemorate that, to celebrate that. And it's in the form of a tree. It's actually a family tree. There's the tree trunk, and then the branches that all come up and meet at the top are little figures that represent my mother's generation. Standing at the bottom of the tree are my grandparents, one each side of the trunk. On the trunk there's a little love heart, and it's got the initials AL and BC. That's Alan Langwell and Barbara Castleton. It's lovely, and it's gold for the golden wedding anniversary. I think Bet and Paul came over for the 50th celebrations and they presented this to my grandparents. My grandfather was a very proper man. He was born in the late 1800s. He had sort of thoughts of those times, and he decided that it wasn't really proper that he be shown naked with his wife, with this little sculpture. You could see that he had a penis, and he didn't think that was right. So he was a bit of a handyman. So he grabbed a file and he filed his penis off. What he didn't know at the time was that the sculpture wasn't solid gold. It was sterling silver, plated gold. So when he filed off his penis, there was suddenly a little silver spot there, and that made it even more obvious, drew the eye. And he wasn't so keen on that, but there was not much more he could do. He died in 1978, aged 91. Some 5 years later, Bet and Paul were coming over for my grandmother's 80th birthday, 1983. And everybody was a little bit worried that when he came over that he would not be happy that his artwork had been desecrated, basically. He had quite an international reputation. Sculptural commissions in Australia. He was asked to submit designs for the decimal currency for New Zealand. He had done sculptural commissions there. He had started doing medallion work where he was doing medallions for special occasions and things. So we're all just a little bit worried that he was not going to be happy at all to see that his artwork had been altered. The really funny thing is that when he saw it and understood what had happened and why, he fell about laughing. Quite literally fell on the floor, rolling on the floor, laughing. He knew my grandparents well. He'd dealt with them before and whatnot. He knew my grandfather's kind of very proper stance on how things should be. My grandfather didn't believe that women should be educated. None of the girls got to do a tertiary education. And he just rolled around on the floor and he said, "Yep, that's Alan." And he thought it was hilarious. He did take it back to New Zealand and he did repair it. And it came back to Australia. My gran died in 1985 and the sculpture went back to New Zealand. Paul had developed Alzheimer's and unfortunately passed away in 1992. The tree then went into Betty's collection. And she was still in New Zealand. She had Paul's studio, the house, everything like that. Betty died in 2002 and it fell then into the collection of her eldest, Ian. Betty had always said that when she went, she would like the tree to go to Newcastle Art Gallery. I got a call from Ian in 2005 saying that he would be going to the art gallery to donate this to fulfil his mum's wishes, and he wondered whether I would like to accompany him. He said, "No, it's part of your family history as much as it is mine. You've had a lot to do with the Newcastle visual arts community and the gallery." He thought it would be fitting that if I went too, which was really nice because he could have gone and just donated it himself as the heir, but he invited me. We went along and we donated it to the gallery. So in the gallery now there's a Paul Beadle sculpture with a bit of a story, bit of a history. Looking at it you wouldn't know that it's been repaired, but that's what's happened. My very, very proper grandfather decided that he shouldn't be seen naked with his wife, so he filed his penis off to hide his nakedness. That's the story of the golden wedding tree. It's a really lovely piece, and I hope that now that the gallery's had its big expansion, that one day I'll be able to go in and see it out on display and say hi, pay a visit to my grandparents.